listening to the One's Ready podcast, a team of Air Force Special Operators forged in combat with over 70 years of combined operational experience as well as a decade of selection instructor experience. If you're tired of settling and you want to do something you truly believe in, you're in the right place. Now here's your host, PJ team leader, jiu-jitsu lover, meme enthusiast, and dad joke aficionado, Aaron Love.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the team room. We've got a huge one for you this week. We're really excited. One of the legends of the career field came on in. He's going to talk his career, what he's done since, and he's done a considerable amount. So we absolutely cannot wait. We've been waiting for this one, and now we finally got it locked down. As always, we want to say thank you to everybody that likes, follows, comments, engages, all of the platforms, whether it be Facebook or YouTube or Instagram. We love you guys. We've gotten a lot of good feedback recently that you guys like what we're doing. That's exactly what we want to hear. We also want to hear if we're not doing something. Let us know if you want to see a guest. Let us know if you have a topic that you want us to explore. Anything you guys want, we're here for you. We want to help you earn each breath. It's a whole reason why we're here. The other reason why we're here is to get you the best possible, not only information, but training, equipment, and supplements that we possibly can to help you guys in your journey. One of those is Hoist. Hoist has IV level hydration. As a J that passes pasta water, I have to understand and know what that means. For you guys, it means you can absolutely thrash yourself, throw a Hoist down mid-workout, after workout, pre-workout, and it will literally help you be more hydrated. Use code ONESREADY at checkout. If you want to order online, their shipping is fast. They get it to you right away. And then look around for them. They're popping up literally everywhere. So look in your shopettes. If you guys are active duty, look in your shopettes, look in your commissaries. If not, they have them at Kroger. They got them at Albertsons. My favorite is the dragon fruit. Still, orange is a close second for me, but we love Hoist. They're awesome. Go over, use code ONESREADY at Hoist, drink Hoist on IG or drinkhoist.com, and you'll get a sweet discount. All right, with that out of the way, Chief, I will never be able to call you Tony. It's never, ever going to happen in my entire life. You were my chief. You were one of the chiefs of the career field. I believe you were the career field functional manager when you were in. So you were always going to be chief to me, and that is never going to change. But Chief Tony Negron, welcome to the team room. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Man, it's an absolute pleasure to be on here. Thanks for inviting me. And I'm looking forward to it. Just one clarification, though you threw out some amazing accolades there. I was actually never the CFM.
Okay.
Yeah, I was the AC. I finished off over at Langley Air Force Base, where I was the Air Combat Command functional. But then I wanted to take a different path after that. But thanks a lot.
Got it. Yeah. So that's where I got it confused because I was an ACC at the time. So I was all, like, your name was all, it was like, you better talk to Chief Negron. You better talk to NN about that, Aaron, which I got counseled many times. So, man, we just welcome, just for everybody that doesn't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your career? And, like we were talking about, you can go in depth. You have a very, very long and very, action-packed career. So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. In total, I ended up doing 26 years in the United States Air Force, and I joined the Air Force in December of 1988, so right before Christmas time. I wasn't ready to go to school, I guess I felt, and I wanted to, though I'm a Midwest boy and I grew up in Indiana. I love Indiana, but I wanted to travel. And so I wanted to see the world, and some of the options were to join the military. So I ended up joining in 1988. I came in, I walked into the recruiter, and I basically said, hey, I'm looking, I was an athlete, I was a wrestler. And I said, hey, look at, I'm looking at doing something exciting, and I'm not sure exactly what that is because I don't know what the options are. But I ended up, initially I went in to be security forces. So I was a cop initially.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I did that for about 5 years. I enjoyed it. I still keep in touch with some of the friends I established in that community. If you think about that, that's pretty impressive being on the tail end of 26 years. But I still got a couple of friends that I stay in touch with today. But somewhere along the lines, about 5 years in, I was over in Misawa, Japan. And I don't even know if you guys know this, but we had a pararescue unit in Misawa, Japan for a short time. And that's kind of where I met Tony Alexander and a couple of other and guys end up being excellent officers. Tony Alexander back then was a PJ. Subsequently, later on, he became one of our combat rescue officers. But hung out with those guys, and as I got to know them, I decided, I think that's what I want to do. I want to cross train over into pararescue. It seems like a very interesting job. It looks like a lot of fun, and that's what I did. I left Misawa, Japan, went right into the pipeline, came back to the States, rotated back, and then I started that pipeline. 2 years in the pipeline. I graduated 2 years later. My first assignment was ACC, where I spent some time. From there, I went over to England. I did some time in AFSOC. It was an awesome assignment. That's also where I met my wife when the Bosnian War was going on.
Okay. Awesome.
And we would fly missions out of Brindisi or San Vito, Italy, in the lower half of Italy there. I ended up meeting my wife there, the first rotation. And then after that, I applied for the 24th. I went up there and I ended up staying up there for about the first 6.5 years of the war. Decided it was time to move on. I went out to Moody Air Force Base, kind of back into ACC, and then graduated back up to staff eventually. As you make it through the ranks, you kind of promote to the next level. You take on more and more responsibility, and then the people who help you make it up and help you get promoted, they want you to carry on that responsibility and do the best for the community. So I ended up at ACC, where you and I met, and I became your Air Combat Command functional manager.
Indeed. Yeah. So we get a lot of questions all the time, and I know maybe you do have an opinion on it, maybe you don't, but you've seen it from both sides of the fence. And, I always took from another famous career field chief, at least famous for me, was, Lee Schaefer. And his famous quote was, a PJ is a PJ is a PJ. It doesn't matter if you work at ST or if you work in ACC. How did you feel going back and forth, in and out of, England and then back to ACC and then seeing things from that, that bigger perspective? How do you feel about when people ask you, well, is an STPJ different than an ACC PJ?
Well, Lee Schaefer, absolutely, you're spot on. As a mentor of mine, I agree with him 100%. Lee and I have always saw eye to eye on that. Matter of fact, I encourage PJs and controllers and any soft guys to move around to become a better, well-rounded operator, respective of whatever community you're in. So if you want to be a good J and you have aspirations of hanging around for quite some time, then you should absolutely move around. And I think you guys remember, when I first came in, we were very divisive. Okay, so you absolutely had guys who stayed within ACC. Some of my supervisor had stayed within ACC their whole career. And it was the same on the flip side where you had AFSOC and guys stayed over there. But, to be a better, well-rounded operator, and especially as you make your way up through the chain and become managers and leaders, that's how you can represent everybody. I mean, it's tough to speak on AFSOC and JSOC or any of those commands where you have your men if you haven't spent time in those communities.
Yeah, it's difficult. And, the natural order of things and the way that we are is like, there's another person that wears a different badge, like they're a different tribe. So we're going to naturally compete against each other. But obviously we get trained in the same kind of thing. And I totally agree that it's very important for people to be well-rounded and go to instructor positions like you, just kind of traveled back and forth and all around. And you've pretty much done everything that, a PJ could do from, ground up all the way up to becoming a chief. Did you, so a lot of people kind of ask, how do I get there? What do I do? Did you plan on doing any of those kind of things, or everything just kind of fell into place and you just kept on doing good where you could and then, ended up being promoted as a result of that?
Yeah, no, awesome question. Though some guys are very self-aware, and I've always thought of myself as a very self-aware guy, but there was actually guys that you and I probably gone through the pipeline with. Some of those guys are like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to be a command chief. I see myself in 10 years going off to be a helicopter pilot. And no, I didn't do that. What I did was, I wanted to graduate NDOC. I wanted to be a PJ. And then subsequently after that, I went right into the next role of like, hey, I want to be a great PJ. Okay. Yeah. And then in the course of doing that, in the course of trying to be the best you possibly can, because you don't get there on your own. My supervisors and people, my commanders and my folks, they notice that and they take care of you because that's how it is. There's always somebody who's writing on you and putting awards in for you and sending you on the next TDY and giving you feedback and mentorship along the way. So yeah, in the course of just trying to always excel and be the best I possibly could, I ended up being a chief. I guess it was that simple. It's not simple, but if you break it down like that, and that's how I try to mentor guys. hey man, just try to do the best you can where you are in that place and time right there. And hopefully the people around you will notice. And usually with folks like us in our communities, they absolutely notice. They always take care of the guys who are packing the mail, the sled dogs.
Yeah, and I think that's super important to just point out for those people that are listening right now, because there is kind of, if you go back to the normal Air Force, which I am right now because I'm a PA and I have to do 2 years, in this kind of career field.
We're so sorry, Brian. We're so
I'm
sorry.
Over here
Listen, it's way
looking
better
at
on
you
this
guys
side of the
from
fence.
like the cage,
gas.
just like, hey guys, can I come back? But just the kind of personality types and the way that they go, they look for, okay, how do I get this next bullet? How do I get this bullet? All this, just trying to chase award packages rather than chasing what actually matters, which is, doing the best you can with what you got, because it's the right thing to do, not because you're trying to chase anything like that. So I just want to bring that up. So speaking of, continuing to achieve and make yourself better and all that kind of stuff, once you got out, you had the chief, you had the retirement, obviously you can't sit still. So you ended up starting up some other stuff. So first one we'll talk about is SEI. So can you just kind of explain to people what SEI means and what you guys do?
Yeah, and just if I could just give just a little backdrop here. So as you guys know, SEI actually was owned by a legendary PJ chief by the name of Wayne Fisk. So Wayne Fisk started up SEI a while back, and Wayne had been a mentor of mine for a long time. And as I started to approach the end of my career, I'm looking at the off-ramp, and I think he was looking at an off-ramp also. And, I basically, and like you said, I knew I just couldn't come out and just start golfing. I felt too young.
Yeah.
And it is like
that's
that.
never going to be a thing. Yeah.
And most of our guys are like that, and we can chat about that later. But, most of our guys, if you're running this hard and you think, hey, you're going to kick it and just relax for a little while, that may be true for about 24 months or less than that, but you're going to be ready to find something else, just the way we're programmed. So SEI, I bought SEI, and absolutely. So, what SEI stands for, and a lot of folks don't really know this, SEI, just the first S in SEI, Sierra Echo India, the first S stands for Special Tactics Operator Advanced Life Support, and it's a combat medical refresher course that was built around taking care of soft personnel. And then the E is etc. It's that simple, etc. Institute. So it's
pretty much everything. So you took being a jack of all trades and you connected with that. And Chief Fisk, like I was lucky enough, the very first time that I was aware of what a rusty nail was, yeah. Chief Fisk toasted us. We were getting ready to leave for a deployment from the blue team room in North Carolina, and he actually told us what the rusty nail was. It was the first time that I'd ever seen it. So it's funny. I can hear Chief Fisk's voice in my head, just being like, "Yeah, it's all this other stuff and etc. We're going to call it SEI."
That's right. Because if you think about the nature of what we do within Pararescue, but if you include even all of our soft counterparts, the SEALs, the controllers, MARSOC now, and those guys are all part of the larger umbrella of our soft force. That's what they do, man. They're covering all kinds of stuff when it comes to shoot, move, and communicate.
All right. And so the biggest portion of SEI, what you guys do, the first pillar is basically professional instruction and trying to, train guys to be leaders and all that kind of stuff. If you go to the Instagram, the SEI Instagram, it has a bunch of pictures of the professional seminars that they do in person. And then, obviously lots of mentorship involved. And most of the PJs go through this kind of course and other operators also. So can you tell us a little bit about the classes and who the instructors are, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, obviously on the training side, the professional training is it's all housed in shoot, move, and communicate and all those type of things, anything that you guys might want to do. But professional development is the stuff I really wanted to grow for all the stuff that we just chatted about just in the last couple of minutes. I wanted to continue to stay involved and well-round our individuals outside of just shoot, move, and communicate. Because I know, and we know that, hey, if you want to be stronger in those areas, then if you can grow some of those leadership aspects, and now that we have POTF, Preservation of the Force and Family, on board, there's a lot of pillars and things that you can do that reside right up inside of POTF that make you a better overall operator. So, within SEI, we're developing the Professional Academy, or the ProDev Academy. And that's exactly what it is. It's the well-round individuals outside of just shoot, move, and communicate, a whole person concept, all the way down to even finances, helping them be successful as early on as their career and mint them in financial stuff. That way, when we see them at the end, they're a lot better than what maybe they might have been if they wouldn't have planned for that. You got to put time on your side. And that's one thing I tried to do early on in my career. And it's helped me and allowed me and others to be successful on the backside of a soft career.
And so, the interesting thing about, like we're talking about starting businesses and all that kind of stuff after we're done with our career, for me, it was once I was an instructor and I really saw how much people could benefit from, just podcasts and, little posts on Instagram. Like, wow, people actually are being helped by the things that I'm saying. And it was really awesome to just be able to reach out and help guys like that. What was kind of the catalyst for you to start the SEI thing and then start making, the products that you have, focusing on leadership, focusing on, from every cent that the person's spending until the leadership portion, pretty much you're focused on all that kind of stuff. What made you want to go and do that kind of venture?
Yeah. I guess initially what it was is I started to see there was just a huge difference in between where guys spent time. You know how we were talking about guys spending time in AFSOC and then some guys staying with an ACC, maybe some guys spending time in AETC. I had noticed at some commands or within some certain units, they had institutionalized processes where maybe if folks were weak in leadership, they started to put some things in place that maybe you didn't have all the best leadership skills, but you were a great operator. Okay. So they put things in place that by default, we're going to make you do good best practices that are going to help you. And we definitely know they're going to help your people. So anybody working underneath you, if you start to do a couple of these things and use these best practices, that your people are going to be better for it. So that was my plan is, I wanted to come out, and the best place to really do that is when I first took over SEI, because it was my chance to kind of be the boss. There was no bureaucracy, and on Monday, if I decided I wanted to put a change, on Tuesday we could do it. It was that simple, and so I'm like, you know what, we could take what's in our head. I can get with some of folks I've really respected, mentors and leaders out there and other folks in corporate through connections and say, hey, look, I want to build something in the way of leadership, but for leadership, like for our type of people, warriors and things like that. Because regardless of what people think, and believe me, I've learned through trial and error also, just because you're a great operator, a great tactician, a great SEAL, a great PJ, doesn't mean you're a good manager or even a good leader. And I've seen it my whole career, and I'm sure you guys have. And sometimes I think our folks get confused on that. They automatically think that, hey, I'm so good at my job that people will follow me and that you're doing a great job just because you're good at it. Well, that's nothing could be further from the case. A lot of times guys, they might even undermine each other. They talk behind guys' back, but sometimes they don't say it up front to somebody. So that's really was the impetus behind going forward with SEI and expanding SEI into taking on this whole professional leadership academy. I just wanted to make our operators better in the long run. And I know that the professional development part would make them better at their shoot, move, and communicate and help with their families. Because for the better part of my career, I've seen so many of my friends go through divorces, folks that I've never thought would go through divorce. And so it was a sustainment thing for me, how and for us, how can we better well-round these guys, make them better operators. And I know they're going to be better operators if their families are taken care of, and if they can learn some of these fundamental skills and practice them, because it does take rigor. A lot of folks don't realize that, but you got to put time into it, just like you do your shoot, move, and communicate stuff. I know that was long, but yeah.
Right. No, that's awesome, Chief. And for the people that are out there, I think differentiating between the training side and the development side and where they overlap, like how do you kind of see that all coming together? Because like you said, if you crush the development side, like that could make a guy a better operator. But if you crush the operator side, could that bleed over into the professional development side as well? Like how do you connect those two and make it make sense in people's heads?
Yeah, the way I kind of see training, which is absolutely what we do, and so many of, like you guys do every day, and so many of my friends who are doing training courses. We go and we train every single day, but it's initially when I was a J, and I never went to really any of these professional development courses other than your Air Force PME courses, NCO Academy. And then when I became a chief, I went to CLC. I was lucky enough to go to CLC, by the way, where they sent me out to a Darden School of Business. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty awesome. They really brought in some high-end corporate type of folks. And I never forgot about that. But the way I see training is, when you're a J, regardless of if you're a 3-level, 5-level, or 7-level, as you make your way up through the tiers of going all the way up to leadership, the training part is just kind of doing your proficiency and everything you need to do for shoot, move, and communicate. And then, but the whole other aspect of that is, and man, I would say, and I don't know what it is, what the breakout is, but at least half of it is the personal growth and development, and everything that we kind of chatted about a little bit in the way of POTIF. Okay, and that's the development of gaining knowledge through experience that are other life experiences, kind of almost like the whole person concept. So that's kind of where I see the pro-dev element mirroring up with the training element to make a better, well-rounded father, operator, and successful individual even after the military.
Right. I think we've covered some of that stuff before on the podcast, and I think the new selection course kind of gets after that a little bit, right? Like no one wants a guy on team or a supervisor that's not a good person. I don't care how good of a shot you are and all this other stuff, but if you don't have those characteristics as a person, as a leader, like I don't want to follow you. I don't want to listen to you. I don't care how fast you are. You know what I mean? Like
you don't even want to be in the same team room. If they're toxic, if you have to worry about that guy on TDY, like if you have to worry about every single time, like, oh, I don't want to have this talk because it always goes poorly because their emotional intelligence is low. Like it just gets so it's grating every single day. It's like it's a grind to be in that environment.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And, we're not robots, we're humans. Okay. And the bottom line is emotional intelligence comes into play, and likability, folks don't realize it, but, your IQ is something that, it's kind of imprinted in your DNA. You're not changing it. But your emotional intelligence, which is absolutely the most important thing when it comes to networking, entrepreneurship, being a successful operator, that's something that you can change. And through stuff like this, through professional development, through leadership, through being introspective, you can change it very easily and start pulling in some of these best practices. And the ones who don't recognize how important emotional intelligence is, that's where they get stagnated. And especially if they're not savvy on noticing, poor or things that are very annoying, if they're just not picking up to how annoying they might be to somebody else.
Right. Read the room, Bob.
Yeah, right.
Like no one's asking you.
I was going to say the same thing. I was 100% read the room, Bob.
Yeah.
So what is it about the way that SEI goes after the pro dev piece of it that makes it unique and beneficial for the operators out there?
Yeah, I think the biggest way to look at it is that obviously POTIF has come on board, at least within our communities. In some communities, it's farther ahead, and in other communities, man, it's light years behind. And then as that comes on board, the teams are starting to do more of that internally. But maybe the best way to look at it, with everything that's going on between, the deployments that guys have to do, short cycles, AEF rotations, if we're just talking about the Air Force type of guys, between everything you have to do in support of civil SARs, even NASA, when we're talking about, specifically our pararescue and guardian angel community, that's a lot to take on. Okay, now you tack on CBTs and everything else and try to get a little time with family. So between all that stuff right there, things get cut out, and you don't get the expertise that you need when it comes to doing possibly pro devs. Pro dev, I imagine that teams right now, outside of some very specific dedicated practices, maybe at the school and stuff like that, it could be very ad hoc, and it's probably like, hey, we got this guy, it's just passing through, or I'm going to invite somebody in the team room, or hey, on Monday, we'd like to do some professional development. But on the outside, SEI has an academy that is dedicated to that. Okay. Every day when you guys go to work and do your thing, we have an SEI Academy where people are working on curricula. They're working to network with not only soft professionals, but folks outside of soft that are in corporate and bringing them into the fold. Okay. So it's their number one job every single time. So when you guys call somebody like us, that it's been vetted, it's been validated, it's been tested. They've pulled in the best TTPs and they're subject matter experts. And it's almost kin to why we started outsourcing. Before the war kicked off, before we got busy with 9/11, if you remember, in the early days, we did a lot of in-house stuff. And you guys probably don't, man. Looking at,
I got you.
Peaches, you're in.
Peaches is the only one there. Peaches might be the only one there, but Peaches, Jared probably remembers, man. We tried to do a lot of internal training, but as you start to pick up the pace and you start to get very busy, and now war kicks off. Okay, well, we start outsourcing a lot because while we're all concentrating on the war, and even the guys who taught us the 7 levels and the really experienced guys, they're saturated and task saturated with the war. So we start outsourcing because if you break down those lanes of extrication, even something as basic as that, there's somebody out in the civilian sector that's doing that every single day. All right, if that makes sense. We only have so much ram upstairs. And we're trying to be jack of all trades and all these other things. But man, you start outsourcing to somebody who's their only specific job or trade is to kind of do one little tiny lane of what we need being, PJs and operators. If that makes sense.
Oh, yep. It makes total sense. You need those people that, like you said, are focused on it and are the experts at it. And if you're an E7 on the team, like you still got to deploy and do all your own job anyway, on top of taking care of your team and make sure they're getting all their training and all that other stuff. So, but as we talk about pro dev, when should myself as a team member or anybody else on team or an aspiring person, when do we start thinking about professional development? Like when does that start, or when should we think about it?
Yeah, it starts now. Okay. And that's my philosophy on it. Now, obviously, as a 3-level, you have a lot of other stuff on your plate, but there's certain portions of pro dev that are very applicable for a younger guy. There's certain portions of pro dev that are very applicable for 5-level. And as you start to tier on up, courses get modified for the amount of certain type of development you need or certain type of development you might want. But I would say you start as early as possible. And one of them, is a perfect example of what I'm talking about is, and we'll talk about maybe Fusion Cell a little bit later, but I'm trying to help veterans, specifically our type of soft veterans, on the way out. Okay. And try to find jobs as they start to separate from the military. And it never fails. It always comes up. One conversation that always comes up because you're looking for timelines on how fast they need jobs is finances. Okay. So if you just take financial support alone and finances, man, that needs to start when those guys are selected or right when they attend AFSPEC war down there. But as soon at the earliest possible moment, maybe right when they get to their teams, we got to get somebody in there. And I'm not talking about the finance guy coming over once in a while and giving you a little financial brief. And my push is for when I talk about institution, and you'll see that's why we're chatting right now. Things need to be institutionalized within our communities, because when they're institutionalized within our communities, that's a captive audience. Hey, you pararescuemen, you combat controllers, you SEALs. Hey, this is a guy who's going to be talking to you. We're looking out for your best interest, whether you decide to stay around for 5 years, 15 or 20 years. We already know that, and our community has backed this. This guy's going to talk to you about finances. He's backed by our communities, and we want to make sure you guys are successful on the tail end and stuff like that. So that's just one small little piece of professional development. There's all kinds of them. But yeah, it needs to start as early as possible because you know how it is. A lot of times we're thrust right into these leadership positions, whether that's the ops soup, the team leader getting ready to go down range. So if you could start practicing these best skills, these best TTPs to be a leader, you're only going to be that much stronger by the time you're an ops soup or by the time you're a chief.
Well, and to that point, let me just pull the curtain back for everybody that's listening. You're going to be put in those positions long before you feel like you're ready for them. as a guy that's found myself in the seat and just being, Trent and I had a conversation the other day where we were joking about, there was a conversation we had the other day and somebody looked at me and I was the adult in the room and I was like, oh, wait, hold on.
When did this
I'm
happen?
the adult here. When did this happen? I need an adultier adult to help me through this. So if you don't go left of bang, if you don't start training, think it like physical training. That's right. You don't start physical training when you like a day before the event, right? You have to start weeks and months and years ahead of that in order to be ready for your event. So right. I'm completely and totally I'm north-south over here all day agreeing with you, because unless you start that pro dev as early as possible, you're going to be put in those leadership positions early. And it might be, you might have a day's notice. It might be, hey, things fell out. You're the leader now. I need you to lead. And we have a no-fail mission. You have to be ready.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Tony.
No, I was just going to say, too many times in my career, especially specifically when I think about being the ops soup when I was down there at Moody, I remember, a guy from the team room might come into my office and be like, he'd shut the door and he'd be like, man, our boss upstairs, whether that's the crow or the team leader, I don't really like him. I don't really care for him. And, he'd just come in and shut the door and bitch about him. And I'm not singling anybody out. I've seen this out my entire career. And and they'd come in and just kind of vent a little bit. And I would turn to them and go, well, did you tell him you don't like him? Or did you tell him you don't care about him? Or did you tell him the men were talking about him? And they'd always go, well, he knows. And I'm like, well, how does he know? Did you tell him? And then they'd be like, well, he knows, everybody knows. And I go, I'm not asking that. I go, did you tell him that, he's not a good leader or that he sucks? Okay. Did you share that with him? He's like, well, I didn't, but I'm sure somebody did. And I'm here to tell you sure somebody did is not a good way to look at it. Matter of fact, what I've learned more than often is that, a lot of those guys don't really know. And it's a two-way street. You need to talk to both of them. The guy coming into my office is doing us a disservice by not sharing that and by not being transparent, because a lot of guys, what you should do is you should give him a chance to try to change, and he needs the feedback. And we're always very good at doing feedbacks, after a jump, after a mission, after some sort of scenario. But all these little stitches, all the fabric of what that hold a squadron together and to make an organization run like a finely oiled machine, that's the stuff right there. And it's those little bitch sessions or somebody undermining the commander. I just wanted to share that because that's was kind of a little bit of the impetus for the leadership type of stuff, the leadership development. And it needs to start early so guys don't get set in these bad habits. They need to be professional from the beginning, need to learn how to be respectful, not undermine, and they don't understand it. Something as simple as, the DO talking, the crow talking in the back of a team room, a SEAL commander maybe giving some advice, and three guys in the back room rolling their eyes. It can be very destructive.
It can be toxic. Once that starts to happen, once you break the seal on it's okay to talk crap and be passive aggressive, it's the worst. You can feel it slipping away. It's terrible.
Yep. No. So when we talk about open and honest communication, that is not talking crap behind somebody's back. That is, if you have an issue with somebody, you talk to them about it. You confront them about it. That's all it is. And your story about, or you're talking about institutionalized, mentorship and stuff. It reminds me of a time, this was, I don't know, 2001, 2002, young senior airman probably, I think, Petrus, decided to go out and buy a Jeep Wrangler, used Jeep Wrangler. And I don't know what it was, 20-something, it probably wasn't 20-something thousand. Oh, it was 16,000, that's right. And I showed up to work into the team room the next day. You know how it is when everybody gets a new car, everybody wants to see it. Well, the LT pulled me out to the side and he's like, hey, do you mind if I take a look at your contract, your loan paperwork? I was like, yeah, sure. He looked at it, did the math. He's like, hey, you realize that you paid 16 for this. At the end of this loan, you're going to end up paying $35,000, right? Yeah.
Oh no.
So
Pete, you got hit with that. You got hit with that 24% APR right off base, homie.
Yeah. Except I didn't go with a V6 Mustang. So, all right. But what he did, and he didn't have to, he could have just said, hey, that sucks. He took me and the contract down to the dealership because they're one of those write-off base dealerships that are preying on new military members, right? Yep. He went down there, sat down with the general manager, and managed to get that entire contract negated and void, and put me on a new contract where I was, I'm young. I was paying whatever. I shouldn't have gotten the loan anyway. I should have never gotten it. Like, let's be real about that. But amazing leader, and he continued to be all the way up until he retired as a light colonel at the Pentagon. But we have to pull people aside and teach them those, because they're not necessarily learning those life skills in school. Like, they're learning academics in school. They don't know how to, and I know balance a checkbook is old, but they don't know how to do a budget. They don't know how to get insurance and that kind of stuff. It's a lot of life skills that guys miss.
No, you're right. Well, first of all, good on that officer. Sounds like a freaking great leader you had. And but we owe it to our communities, our soft communities, and obviously I'm very fond of the pararescue community. But we owe it to our guys who absolutely do all that type of stuff right there to help them out. They're packing the mail for the country. Man, it doesn't get any more altruistic than being, a PJ and giving everything for somebody else. But we owe it to all of our soft warriors to help well round them out so they're successful, not only in the beginning, through, and then on the tail end of their career as they rotate out of the military. And I agree, 100%.
Yeah. So as we talk about the entire, gambit of leadership and mentorship and stuff like that, SEI is kind of chasing the professional development in a very innovative way. So you guys have created the Cave. So do you mind telling me what the Cave is and why is it called the Cave?
Yeah. So, it's the Cave was my idea. And initially, I think you guys talked to Shane. I wasn't sure where, and initially when I have an idea, a vision on something, I don't normally try to get too attached to the name of something, so to speak. It's just kind of something I learned in business. At least being out here, you got to maneuvering and kind of moving out and having momentum is kind of, keeping up or outpacing the churn is probably really the most important thing we really got to deal with. So, but the Cave was, when you start talking about all this professional development and everything we kind of been chatting about right here, it was our continuation process, or the repository on where to house all the information that we're trying to build right now, i.e., kind of this podcast and future podcasts on leadership, information that is out there on the internet, talking to, or a lot of that book that we've journaled, all the journaling that we've done through the years from operators, trying to put some of that in there and having a one-stop shop location that was really for warriors. And what I mean by like warriors, because we read all these great books out there, either in doctrine or military doctrine on soft, but then there's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of leadership books being pushed every single day. I just got the latest one from Jordan Peterson, because I'm looking at reading that one right now. But you got to operationalize a lot of that type of stuff. And there's a lot of information on the internet. So what I'm tasking our team to do is kind of sift through all that type of stuff out there. Maybe you've heard stories and articles, sift through that type of stuff out there and see what applies to our type of guys, like the warriors that are out there executing the job, and see if we can take that, and if it can be operationalized, let's put it into one area called the Cave, this repository of warrior type of information. And so an example might be, when I was at the 24th, sometimes when I went down range, there were stories that sometimes some of the guys would share. right before he went out and did an op, like maybe the STO would lean over and just give us a fast little anecdotal story on, maybe it was a biblical David versus Goliath or something like that. And I always thought that was really cool. I always thought that was neat how they could recall that and then at the very applicable time do that. So, I have a guy right now tasked with going out there, find whatever you can across the internet, whatever, even tapping into other sister services and finding stories like that. So that might be under, and I don't know how, because right now we're just trying to build it, but, I want to put that under, whatever we're going to call it, anecdotal stories to share, and guys can sift through that and go, hey, I'd like to take that and put that in my toolbox. Here's a moral, like that one's very applicable to us. And so that's kind of what it is in a nutshell. Now, also, as we run these professional development classes, there's the curricula, there's the information that was put out in those classes. That's just a no-brainer. That'll be stuff like that. But the other one, the part that I'm really excited about is, having folks go through, sift through all this stuff, find out what they can operationalize, and then, put it in the cave.
So who's going to have access to the cave, and is it ready to go now? Are you guys set?
Yeah. So the way it's working right now, or how I think I'm going to do it, and you know how things are, man, through life, things could rapidly change, So in my head, I feel like who's going to have access to it is, like our communities, or folks maybe who hit ProDev, and I would just give them, as they come through and hit ProDev, give them, access to it. But I think it's probably going to morph out of that, man. Like I care so much about our, if we're talking about our community right here, our AFSPEC warriors, but, then if I'm going to open it up to AFSPEC warriors, why would I not open it up to, all the soft guys who are out there executing this job just to get the word out on, but it's definitely going to be, it's geared towards warrior leadership type stuff, Yeah,
definitely. I'm sure you'd agree, but as an active duty member, I would have loved to have had this, now, but also when I first came in. And, if these guys have that ability to access this, even if in small snippets before they even join, that's huge because they get an idea of what the community is about. They do it through our podcast, but I think SEI brings a whole nother aspect of it. As definitely a professionalized professional development system.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, man, I'm excited about this. I'm really looking forward to diving into some of this.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm sorry, Jared, you were asking. So we're still working on it, but I hope to have the cave, or we hope to have the cave, up and running. And I would say by, the third quarter of this year.
Yeah. And I think, the important thing about this is, for our audience, obviously is a little bit younger predominantly. Some guys are, reaching the 30 mark, but for those guys, I personally wasn't really a huge reader or anything like that. I listen to Audible as I do runs and stuff now, but I didn't start that until, about 8 years ago when I really started investing in myself and like learning. Up until that point, I was like, let's just go out and, do whatever, waste my time. But, if those guys that are doing this right now can get started early into that kind of leadership mentality and just learn exactly like the principles that made someone else successful, got them through missions, got them through whatever, and made sure that their team was able to be the highest functioning that it could possibly be. They take those lessons learned and then, like you said, reach into that toolbox whenever the time comes and they're in that position. As Aaron was saying, it's going to happen a lot sooner than you really think. You're not going to be prepared for it. And it's just going to say, all right, it's time for you to step up. You're the next guy. And you're like, wait, I thought I had some more time. You're like, sorry, you're it. So, if you get started earlier and you're able to actually, reach into that cave and go, I guess it's kind of like the Fortress of Solitude, kind of what it sounds like for Superman. Go back, reconsolidate, and then make sure you're ready to go for whatever is going to be coming out. Because I think planning is great and everything, but preparation is what's going to get you through those times that are just unknowns, because all we can do is prepare. We don't know what's going to happen the next day or the next week or whatever. We can plan all we want, but nothing ever turns out exactly like we plan it to be. So with that being said, so we're talking about A lot of stuff with SEI, but like you said, you're continuing to grow and make sure that you have the best access to make our operators better. So tell me a little bit about what Fusion Cell is and kind of what you guys are doing, and is it out yet? What can people expect from Fusion Cell?
Yeah, man, this is a good one. I'm very proud of this one, so I'm glad we're talking about it. Yeah, Fusion Cell is out now. It's a full-blown business that is working right now. I think we have 10 employees that come to work every day to help operators. So just to give you a little background, like how I got to Fusion Cell was like, I wasn't looking for Fusion Cell. It wasn't a plan. I didn't have a strategic strategy on starting up another business. But like with anything, I've always been a strong and avid believer in like being an operator. And I've always tried to tell my guys, always position yourself to be ready. So when an opportunity presents itself, you are in a position to capitalize. And that's exactly what happened with Fusion Cell. And how we got there is, so because of SEI, because, I'm seeing operators on a pretty regular basis. Okay. Guys trickling through all the time from SOF and a lot, mostly from our communities. Between that and between, the Pararescue Foundation, because we started it, myself and Mike Jones started up the Pararescue Foundation about a year after I'd been running SEI. Okay. So we started doing some retreats. And so between spending time in both of those areas, I was constantly getting phone calls from operators going, "Hey, I'm getting ready to get out, Tony. I'm looking for a job. What's out there for us?" And like any other operator before me, I probably was doing, and I still put, I still continue to push guys into contracting if that's what they want to do. But at the time I was asked back then, I absolutely was just pushing guys into contracting. And subsequently what happened is 5 of my really good friends, guys that we probably know in this room, got hurt, killed, or maimed doing contracting gigs. Okay. And the icing on the cake was a last SEAL friend of mine who went over and did a contracting gig, and unfortunately, got hit by an IED and lost his legs. And he'd done 26 years like myself. And so that got me thinking, like, hey, is there something else we can offer these guys? Not all of them, because some operators, that's what they want to do. That's just the way it's going to be. But I would say more, a significant number of those guys, if they were given other opportunities, they would choose something else. So what I wanted to try to do was go out and network with corporate. And so I hooked up with a guy by the name of Jack Heath, and he is a iHeartRadio talk show host. And I hooked up with him through some connections. He was a strong, staunch veteran advocate and had done great things up in the New England area. So folks kept telling me, "Hey, go talk to this guy." And so him and I got together and we started we started Fusion Cell, and we just basically we started calling local companies in the New England area and said, "Hey, look at, if we found qualified veterans," and remember initially what I was looking at is like our type of guys. Hey, look at, would you hire these type of guys, and if they're qualified, project managers, could you bring them in? And they absolutely said, yeah, hey, if they're qualified, we absolutely would, and they just got to meet the qualifications, which we all understand, so that was the first beginnings of Fusion Cell. And then at somewhere along the road, we met the future guy who would end up financing Fusion Cell to really grow it at a very expedient level. And he was part of a staffing company by the name of Medicus. His name was Joe Matarisi, had built in his garage the 4th largest staffing company in the country. And so we met him. We chatted with him about, helping us get Fusion Cell off the ground. So I figured, well, if you know how to staff and you've grown it to a huge business and you're the 4th largest in the company, why can't we staff veterans, SOF and veterans that are separating from the military into corporate America? He agreed. And now we have a full-blown business called Fusion Cell that is helping staff all veterans, even though it started out that, I was really kind of looking at my community. You only have so much capacity, and so I am a principal and a founder in Fusion Cell as we move forward to staff all veterans into corporate America. Because there's just a huge divide that we have to contend with, and but right now it's nice because I think hooking up with a staffing company that understands corporate America and how to staff into there, it's a good relationship.
Yeah, and I think what you're doing there is super important. It's kind of what we, when I was an in-dog instructor, we would try to just embed this in the person's mind that we are here to take care of the team. You're not thinking about yourself. You're not trying to worry about how am I going to make myself look like a better swimmer or whatever. Like if you take care of the team, then the team's going to take care of you, and that goes on through the rest of your life, your entire career, everything like that. So what you're doing here, it sounds like, is, just actually doing the exact same thing where, even when you're done with your career, you're not done with the career field. Everyone's still going to be there for you. All the people that you grew up with, all the people that, mentorship as far as, you and Peach and all those guys are still going to be there for you to help you out because, like I said, you're not just going to go out on the street and be, homeless veteran or anything like that. And I think there is kind of a stigma out there of people that when they get out of the military, they've been to war, they've done whatever, and now they're just broken and they blah, blah. So that's one of the important things that I think, that you can actually do with the Fusion Cell thing as well is, change that mindset. Obviously you're a successful entrepreneur, nothing broken about you. You're very intelligent and able to actually impact change in the community. And I think it's good to have a platform like you have with the Fusion Cell to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Well, just to jump into like the Fusion Cell thing has always been really, really, like I've always dug it, and I've dug it for kind of like a weird reason. All of these businesses, all of these, high-ranking corporate, your Forbes 500 companies, when they have like get-togethers and they sit down, like they have war rooms. They have people that, hey, we have a crisis, we need to solve it. Who better to solve that than someone's actually been to war? That's like right. The fact that you're bridging that gap and you're putting someone in there, I got to be honest with you. I've been in a couple boardroom discussions where people, the temperature starts to raise up. My heart rate doesn't go anywhere because I've got different experience. You're able to think clearly. The fact that you're linking up those people that might not know how to make that bridge to get from Fusion Cell to a boardroom to actually affect something and bring those skills. We have skills that less than 1% of the population has seen.
That's right.
When the business world starts thinking, how are we going to fix this problem? I have 1% of the population that I can tell you right now, this guy, no matter how high that temperature gets, he's going to be able to think clearly in this situation and he'll help you through it. I always thought that was a really cool thing about Fusion Cell.
Yeah, it's interesting. And a lot of folks, they may not even know this, but so it's all these connecting of dots. And before I went to separate, about 2 years, right, even before I knew I was going to buy S.E.I, I was talking to a combat control friend of mine by the name of Kyle Stambro, who's very successful today. And I know Jared knows him very well. But I was talking to Kyle and I go, hey, I might get out in 2 years. I could stay around a little bit longer. But I go, so who do we contact when we go to get out? Like, what's the network? Is there a network out there that helps us get jobs? And Kyle goes, and he gave me the big goose egg. He goes, no, there's nothing out there, nothing I know. And now you have your associations, your foundations, and all that type of stuff. But that's not what they do. That's not their job. They have different charters. So with Fusion Cell, my attempt and our attempt, we're building. So we have a little LinkedIn site right now, but I'm not going to house it there. I'm going to house it somewhere. We just got to find the right platform. But it's really connecting the dots of all the dudes, all the generation of warriors who've gotten out. I've even talked to guys all the way back to Vietnam. I sent out a letter that basically, and I've chatted with all these guys, and we had a great response back from them. So there's all these guys who've got out before you guys and before me, that they get out and they matriculate and make their way up into Fitbit, maybe even Google. So we have these guys that are in these big companies now. Some are presidents, some are CEOs, some are running HR departments, but they're out there, but they're not connected. You see what I'm saying? Once in a while, they kind of rotate back and they come to the reunions and they we all get together and have a good time. But what we need to do is we need to bridge the gap. So Fusion Cell is bridging the gap between those guys that came from our, AvSpec war and soft communities, making connections with them. And that's what we're building right now, along with the cave, is like, so Kyle's here, or this guy's over here, or John's John. And like, so the way it will work is we make connections with all those former operators who got out and put them in some verticals. Hey, this guy's in business. This guy's in IT. This guy's in agriculture. And we'll have these connections. And I've asked them, hey, would you like to be involved in mentorship, entrepreneurship? Can you help the guys find jobs? And so that's what we're trying to build. We're trying to build a network of folks that came from our communities that are out now, and they've been out for quite some time, that can give back. So when you guys go to leave, and the next generation of guys go to retire, they can, like, when they turn to somebody like Kyle, I turn to Kyle, they can turn to somebody and go, hey, who are we calling? I'm getting out. I need to find a job. I'm not sure what I want to do. And I need a starting point. Fusion Cell. That's who you're calling.
Cool. So what, for the guys that are active duty, and I know that I'm narrowing our demographic right now, but for the guys that are active duty, at what point should they contact you guys? And the follow-on question to that is, if a guy is already separated or retired, are they still, or do you still want them to contact you?
Yeah. So the guys who are retired absolutely can contact us. No problem. Because even if they're at a job now, they might not be at that job in a year. Maybe they're not happy at that job. Maybe they are. They don't have anything to lose. So we can, guys move around from jobs all the time out here. The quick version on answering the question, when should somebody contact us? Because this one seems simple, and then I can get very philosophical on some really deeper stuff. But I'd say 2 years out, 24 months out. A lot of times I get calls from, hey, Tony, I'm looking for a job. And I'm like, okay. They call me on Monday and they're like, I'm looking for a job. And I'm like, okay, how much time do we got? Well, I separated Friday, like the 2 days prior, 3 days prior.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Help me help you. Come on, dude.
It happens a lot, and so I'd say 20. Now, going back to our initial conversation, what you and I and all of us been speaking about for the last, 40 minutes now, probably, is we need to start them as early as possible. Now, that's where it gets crazy, Jared, because you're like, well, what do you mean, Tone? I'm telling you, when guys enter our communities, and we'll talk specifically about AvSpec War, but I would say this freaking canvases all soft guys. You start them out early. You make sure they know about it, okay? Because we can start. So while our warriors are fighting on the front line and shoring up a safety net, for our country, somebody like Fusion Cell gets to know them. They mentor them. They know what they like, what they don't like. Okay. And because you don't know if somebody's getting out in 4 years, they're going to do a 4-year tour, 8 years, or they push to 30. And all it is a simple conversation, because here's why you don't want to wait till the last minute. This is what I'm learning out here. Like, say a guy wants to go into cybersecurity, which is, by the way, a really good idea. If you don't know what you want to do, go into cybersecurity. Okay. And I'm not talking about knocking out degrees. What I'm seeing out here these days is there's certificates, there's requirements, and there's little tiny bridge courses, little things you can do that are sometimes more important than the damn degree. Okay. So like if a guy tells me, hey, I want to go into cybersecurity, I need you to knock out these 5 certificates. Okay. One might be 12 weeks long. Another one might be an 8-week, this and that. But that's not something you want to do late, down at the last minute. But if we can mentor guys and they're like, hey, look at, even if somebody tells me at 5 years in, like, hey, look at, I'm not sure what I want to do. I might do one more rotation, but I know I want to go back to Indiana. I know I want to go to Georgia. That gives us time to, because remember, we're talking about that emotional intelligence and all these other type of stuff. I'm telling you, it's done no differently out here than it is in the military when it comes to relationships and meaningful and trusted relationships. You need time to massage relationships. So, Jared's like, hey, I want to go back to my home state. I'm not sure what I want to do, but hey, there's 3 companies I'm interested in. Well, you know what? Dish me those 3 companies. While you're still in, give me a couple years to massage the relationships, and that, because that's how it's done, man. And that's why I'm saying, I know it sounds crazy, but you start them early. So while you're fighting the war, let somebody like Fusion Cell keep up abreast of what's going on in corporate and the civilian sector, so you don't have to worry about that shit.
I dig it. Okay, email.
Easy. Yeah, I was going to say, your inbox just blew up. Congratulations. Like whether we like to admit it or whether they like to admit it or not, there are actually a lot of guys in the career field, guys and gals in the career field. And actually outside of, we've gotten a lot of feedback that people not even associated with us are listening to this podcast. So You heard it here first. Like, get a hold of Tony at Fusion Cell, drop your email, make your intentions known, and let them help. It's why they're there.
Yep, absolutely.
That's awesome. But on top of not only SEI and Fusion Cell, like you mentioned earlier, you're also running the Pararescue Foundation, correct? So coming from an outside perspective and as a well-known, PJ fanboy or groupie, could you tell me a little bit about what the Pararescue Foundation does or anything like that, or its background?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, and we started. It's only been around for like I guess maybe we're coming up on 4 years now. So there's a team of us, mostly PJs, and now we've brought on 2 more crows. But just to kind of encapsulate what exactly the Pararescue Foundation does. Now, there's definitely pillars, but this is kind of what I share with our operators. If there is something physically, mentally, emotionally that is keeping you from being the best operator you can be and being the right father for your family, and just if there's a distractor out there that's taking your mind away from that right there, then you have the foundation you can reach out to, and we can get you either networked with somebody or give you, the financial support you might need to go and help get some assistance for that type of stuff. But so that's where the foundation is. We offer retreats, we offer programs. It's very different from the association. The association is a great entity for pararescue, and I'm talking specifically about the Pararescue Association. It's been around a long time. They have a little bit different charter. They absolutely help pararescuemen, but the foundation's charter is hemmed up right in, just helping our warriors keep them focused and on the mission that they've dedicated their life to, and keeping them strong family, fathers, husbands, and sons, for their family and extended families. So it's a great opportunity. It's an absolutely, I try to share this with the guys, and I've gotten very different on it. I always used to give the brief and not solicit anything from them. But, it's not like we're loaded with money, and we never want to be able to deny anything to any of our pararescuemen, our combat rescue officers, and we never have. And the thing is, it's so wonderful because it's not this huge foundation yet. It's not like Tommel's big, and you got the SEAL Foundation. Matter of fact, last time I checked, there was probably 48 SEAL foundations. You have one foundation. You have the Pararescue Foundation, and what a great thing. So I always try to tell the guys, hey, look, if you can go and give $1 a month, at any given time, we are constantly sending PJs and crows to support programs. There might be 10 guys right now in a program that you guys don't know about it. I guarantee you every single squadron that you're in right now, whether you know about it or not, are using support or funding from the foundation. And that's why I've kind of started to change my message on it, going, hey, look, this is you guys' foundation. We all are, we don't get paid. We are volunteering our time. It's your foundation. So I've probably started to get a little bit more not so passive on saying, hey, look, if you can support your foundation, please do. Because I get phone calls all the time. We never deny anything from those guys. And it's this simple. If they need some money because something happened to cover a deductible, the Air Force can't respond to it, or it's not as reactive and we need help now, I'm like, what's your account number? Where am I sending the check? That's what,
Well, guess what? You just got We're already in. We already have been, but guess what? We're going to blow this thing up. I know that Come Sit and Relax. I know that Shelves. I know that there's other entities out there. We're all on a group chat. Like, we're in. So let's go, because you guys have always been there.
Yeah, that would be great. And I'd really, really, from everybody at the foundation, guys, I really would appreciate that, because, you know, whether you think you're going to use it or not, it's almost like the gun fund. You're paying for the next guy, you know, and hopefully you never have to use it. But, you know, as leaders and managers and supervisors, you should be using it for your people. I mean, look at, I've always been a big believer on, like, hey, look at, we got these retreats. Find the guys who are packing the mail in your organization, because you know how they are. The sled dogs, those freaking
They're not going to tell you they need a break. They're not going to tell you they want to go on a retreat. They're just going to keep going to work. That's what we do. We punch a clock and you show up to work, and it doesn't matter how you feel about it.
That's right. And you never know if, when, or somebody's going to break. Okay. But what you got to do is you got to exercise good maintenance of our people. Good mental and physical maintenance, and stuff like the foundation, the association, preservation of the force and family. This is how we keep our guys stronger and keep the fractures from coming in, man. So.
Absolutely. And what I'm hearing, so I always boil things down because I'm not that smart of a person, but boiling it down, you got SEI, you got Pro Dev. We're talking about laying Pro Dev on 3 levels. We're talking about the second that you get out. I just luckily, and I want to say thank you, you had a young PJ of mine at your last Stoles course, and he crushed it. He came back and gave me nothing but great feedback and the mentorship and professional development that he had there. And that's amazing. Like, that's directly benefiting me as his supervisor, as his first line supervisor. But you got that. And then you're helping guys with the transition to get them into Fusion Cell. And then all the way through the Pararescue Foundation, where you're like, it doesn't matter, you wore the beret. We are going to assist you from now until the time it is that you go to your last reunion. Like, that's cradle to grave to me. And that's how I feel that your specific efforts have set stuff up. So walk me through it. I look to you as a young, you know, E5, E6, when you were my functional manager out in ACC, and we had our conversations. You were always somebody that could provide a little bit of vision, but also a little bit of clarity. Where do you want to go in the future? What do you see for this career field moving forward?
Well, first of all, I'm very excited about, you know, and at some point, maybe offline, I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts on, you know, AFSPEC war and stuff like that. But I think that's pretty amazing. It's great to see, you know, at what appears to be, at least from the outside, where the future AFSPEC war and stuff like that is going. So, you know, kind of, at least how it appears to be, is you're starting to get the funding, you know, preservation of the force of family. I know from talking to a lot of operators that come up through here that, you know, they're getting the strength and conditioning coaches. They're getting all those pillars that we try to embed within preservation of the force of family. Now those positions are starting to be filled within those units. And I know it. I've had to modify, because I used to teach HPO up, you know, at SEI, every single class, or at least all the Stoles courses. But I think that's being taken care of now at the team level in all those organizations. But yeah, where I want SEI to go. You know, I'm very proud, and I know Wayne was very proud of the heritage and legacy of SEI. You know, it's kind of been this, it's been this pararescue institution, you know, and hopefully it'll always remain that, you know. But within that, you know, I feel like I'm larger than that, because, you know, how I look at things strategically. I hope I do is that I support the SOF community. So that's all SOF wars. You know, we get a lot of SEALs up here. We get some Army. So if you're a SOF warrior, we'd love to have you at SEI, you know, but, you know, my time was spent in pararescue. So I want to continue to grow SEI. And as we do that, if we can provide more growth for SEI, then obviously I can pull in guys who want to work, you know, from our communities into jobs within that. And if they're online with the vision of continue to help our guys and serve them, then I want them with us. I want to grow Fusion Cell. I want to keep, I'm really excited about that. I really, there's a lot of potential.
So is Peaches. Peaches is really excited about that too. He wasn't. He was. He actually wrote you an email while it was on here, so we put it from the company account. We can see when you send those out, Peaches. You accidentally courtesy copied all of us. Like, hey, you put your email out to Fusion Cell while you were on the phone, my guy.
No, that's okay. That's perfect. He's going to hold me to it, and that's the way. That's the way he should. But the reason why I'm excited about the Fusion Cell, because if you think about how long the military's been around, we've been doing this a long time. But there's always been this huge division between the civilian sector and corporate and the military. And unless maybe you're a 2-star general, you could walk right out into the civilian sector and go anywhere. Somebody out there and within corporate is going to go, well, you're a 2-star general, hey, or a 4-star, I watch Patton so they understand that, like, intrinsically, I think you can lead people, you're at a very high level, but everybody else below and in between gets lost in the shuffle. Hey, I was a chief. Oh, okay. What the hell does that mean? Or I was an E whatever, or I was this and this and that. Corporate out here is very specific on when you go to find a job, you're jobbing for that position. I'm an engineer, I'm an IT person, but like you guys said, we got so much to bring to the fight, man, when it comes to thinking outside the box, or I like to say, think outside the ruck. One of my guys, that's a quote I stole from one of my guys. Just I want to grow this piece of connecting the military with corporate, so they understand the structure and they have better understanding. So almost like if you thought about it like this ladder, just like a regular ladder, you kind of climb up, but on one side you kind of have the DoD, the military, the Air Force, and all its AFSCs and the timeline from 0 to 30, and these rungs are the offshoots. Got out at 4 years, got out at 8 years, got out at 20 years. And you can kind of see if you get off at 4, you're a little bit younger. And if you get off at 30 or 26, you're strategic. And then on the other side, you have these partnerships from corporate America, where we've let them into the curtain, behind the curtain, so to speak. So they really understand. So an HR department kind of knows, hey, look at this company. We hire from these AFSCs or these rates, these MOSs, but that's really never been done. But I'm just telling you, that's what we're trying to do at Fusion Cell. So, and if we can get these relationships, then you'll have full cradle to grave. Somebody could join the military, and as they're signing up to join the military, they could almost know what job they qualify and where they want to go. Hey, I'm going to come in for 8 years. I'm coming into this job, and I know that I'm going to offshoot at BAE because they hire those type of people from this AFSC, and I could come in. That's such a big company. I could come in and offshoot at 8 years, or if I make it to chief or colonel or whatever, I could offshoot up here, and I'll be a senior executive manager. So I hope I broke that down. I hope that makes sense.
Well, people ask us that all the time, Chief. People are like, listen, I want to come in here. I want to do this. I want to do this job because I really do connect with it, but I'm looking to, I don't want to spend an entire career. What are my options after that? That's amazing for our listeners, for people that are making this decision. If you want to plan your life out, because life changes, things change.
That's right.
But holy cow, being able to map this out 8 to 10 years, I can't even map out. Until 2 weeks ago, I didn't even have a 2-year plan, and then things changed and I had to change that up. Yeah. But if I had that information, especially at the beginning of my career as a cross trainee from the Midwest myself, things might be a little bit different, and you're there to provide that voice.
Yep.
So we definitely get questions pretty much every other day of like, what can I do? I'm interested in PJ, but what do you guys usually do after you're done with your PJ career? And this is boom. Go check out this guy. This is what guys are going to be doing for the rest of their career after they're done with this career. And I think it's really awesome the way that you're kind of phrasing it, that you're not selling a skill set, because like you said, there are certificates that can be, purchased. You can learn it in a couple weeks, months, years, however long the certificate takes for the specific job you're going to. But what you're getting for that company is a specific personality, and the way that we've grown up within the career field. And, starting from day one, when you get to selection, you become this other person that cares about their team and becomes a certain type of person that functions well in any environment. As some of the other guys were saying, obviously we're better at dealing with some of the pressures that are involved with stepping up, talking in front of people, making sure that the leadership is taking care of all that kind of stuff, and thinking strategically based on wherever you're at. But we're selling that person that, anybody that's hiring them knows that they're going to be able to accomplish whatever task is in front of them, because we're all problem solvers. We're not just, they told me I have to do exactly X, Y, Z. Like, well, maybe we'll think about it in a different way, and there's a better way to get the job done.
Yep.
That's just the way that we think, is how do we consistently improve whatever process we're doing, whatever job we get into, and make ourselves better. So I just want to ask the final question that we always ask for guys that are coming in. Obviously, our audience, like I said, is a little bit younger and all that kind of stuff. They're forecasting, they're like, okay, I'm planning out all this stuff. I'm trying to, figure out where my life is going to go and everything. What would you say they should do now, or what would be your best piece of advice for a person that is, 18, 20, trying to come into this career field and do all these things? What should they think about and do first?
Yeah. So this one to me is relatively easy. Man, I wish I got questions like this all the time, man, because it would be a good day. But yeah, this is what I absolutely 100% tell people. If they're gonna go into SOF or whatever they're gonna go into, it doesn't really matter. But for the sake of this question, if they're gonna go into SOF and say they want to be, they want to be a PJ, they want to be a SEAL or whatever, the first thing I always tell them is to get a mentor. I absolutely always tell them, once they've pulled the trigger on it, the best way I know they can be successful, at least in my head, the way I think about it is to get a mentor from that job. So if a guy, told me he wanted to be a PJ and he pulled the trigger on it and he was really adamant and he made up his mind, then I would say, okay, if you want, I will mentor you. Or, if you want, that's what I'll do for you, because I've learned a lot of lessons and things like that. And also as a good mentor, I think I can help him out. Maybe he was waffling on that question. Maybe he's not sure. Well, a good mentor can help you find out if this is the path for you. Maybe you should go somewhere else. So unequivocally, without a doubt, my thing is, I always try to tell them, hey, get a mentor. Somebody who's navigated that water right there, and the mentor gets a lot out of it also, man. A lot of guys like to do that. I love to mentor guys. I absolutely, yeah, I mean, girls too, man. I love to mentor people. And I think I'm okay at it. I'm certainly not the best, but got a lot of knowledge to pass. And so that's what I say. Yep.
And that's exactly why we are here, to make sure that mentorship gap and everything, because we started this thing in the first place because we were just getting so many freaking questions on our own. Aaron was doing the Shadow Spear thing, Trent was still an instructor and doing all that kind of stuff, but he was fielding questions all over the place, and Peach was doing Reddit and a bunch of other places just on our own. And we're like, man, we're getting all these questions from the career field and other people that are trying to get into this thing. Let's freaking, combine our forces and make sure that people have a resource, something to go to, and make sure that, that mentorship aspect is taken care of. As much time as we can obviously put into, fielding questions, all that kind of stuff. And I think it's huge to be able to just know what you're getting yourself into and preparing specifically for whatever you're going to get yourself into. So you guys have any last parting shots, questions or anything for the Chief?
No, just a thank you, Chief. It was great to sit on here and get mentorship from you for another hour and 15 minutes, however long it is that we went. I just appreciate it. This was as good for me. I can't wait to send this to my friends in the career field. Like normally we talk specifically to people trying to get in, but I think the career field needs to hear this one. I think the bros need to hear this one, because I'll tell you what, man, you're doing awesome things. I just want to say thank you. Yeah.
This is 100%, like we were talking about, cradle to grave, everything that people need to do, and taking care of our teammates and those guys that we've, went to war with, and making sure everyone's all right on the tail end of things versus, before, where guys just used to get out and then they used to kind of fend for themselves, figure out life on the outside, which is kind of a new world, because we're all used to being, 20 whatever years in the military, and you step outside of that world and you're like, wow, this is totally different, but it's awesome stuff that you're doing right there. So just to recap some of the things that we were talking about, starting with the SEI thing, it's making it more well-rounded and skilled operators that are able to lead and have a high degree of emotional intelligence, being able to operate on the outside and making yourself a better leader, focusing on the professional development aspect. That's what he's doing with the SEI thing. But it's kind of a legacy company that he took over from Wayne Fisk. So, like you said, we're starting a new tradition and kind of grouping all of our assets together, making sure that the person on the other end, the PJs, the newer PJs, and us that are, kind of getting a little bit older in the career field are taking care of each other and taking care of the guys that are, with us. So, and then some of the other things are just, being transparent about talking the problems through the team room, making sure that there's not any dissidents among the ranks or anything like that. And guys are taking care of each other that way. And then the cave concept, there's a lot of concepts that you went through. So I just wanted to hit them real quick.
Oh yeah.
The cave concept is another thing that you guys need to start doing now as soon as you can, reading and learning and trying to implement those things that you can reach back in your toolbox and make sure that you're able to implement those things when the time comes, because like we said before, it's going to come a lot sooner than you think it's going to come, and a very important idea for you guys to start implementing now in the rest of your life. And the Fusion Cell, I'm super excited about that too. And like I said, all of us are totally on board with that thing, and the PJ Foundation, making sure that guys are taken care of as they're going through their career if they need a break, and that falls on the leadership also to make sure that, people are aware of that. And now, with this podcast and everything, hopefully everyone is aware of that, and we're pushing this out. And that's why I think it's super important to push this out to guys that are on the teams right now, and then people that are joining right now, so they know that they have some sort of resource to reach back, and they're not going to be alone in whatever problems they're facing, engine breaks down, whatever it is. There's always someone there to help you out and make sure that everything is taken care of, because overall goal is to keep everyone in the fight and make sure you're able to actually execute the mission and continue to do good, make yourself better. So again, Chief, we really appreciate you coming on the show. We'll continue to push for all the things you're doing. Definitely a great mentor for all of us to, see all the awesome things that you're able to do and continue to push forward. We're all kind of like-minded in making sure that we're never sitting still and continuing to move forward and making sure that everyone else is taken care of. So we really appreciate the things that you're doing and appreciate your time for coming on the show. So make sure you guys go ahead and check out, follow. He has an Instagram account for all of these different things, the PJ Foundation, the Fusion Cell, and then SEI, all of them. Make sure you're doing that on Instagram, following them, and seeing the mentorship sessions that he's been putting out. It's really great stuff. And continue listening to the podcast. If you guys ever need anything, like we said, we're always here for you. Make sure that you guys' questions get answered, and do whatever avenue, whatever career field, whatever it is, we're going to help you guys get the information that you need to get in order to make that educated decision and push forward with it. All right. So hit us up anytime. You guys go out there, earn each breath. We'll see you later.
Later. Train hard. Thanks, Chief.
Booyah.